I fire the thing up, I put in the clutch, it rolls about 1 foot and flips over forward. All right guys, we got a good one for you today. This is what I call Huna Matata. This is my favorite vehicle I own, means the most to me. And today we're gonna go over all the cool things about it and why it's special to me. This Jeep is a 91 YJ tub that's been modified. I bought this when I was, one of the times I had sold everything to make another stride in the business. I sold everything I owned to buy this building that we're in currently, and I was super poor and broke and super bored and working way too much, and I had to buy something, and I knew I wanted a Jeep. I'd had an XJ before and then buggies and all that, and so I knew I wanted a Jeep with a frame. And so what I could afford was like the worst worn out YJ in the world. And so I found one, it was gray. It didn't have enough power to go 35 miles an hour. The engine was so wore out, but it did have raised wheel tubs in the back and a CJ front grille on it. And so I thought that was cool. It had some bald 40s and Wagoneer 44s in it. So I bought that, and for I think 3,000 bucks. And then I was broke again, but at least I had something to play with and take my mind off of all the stress of the business at the time. So bought the Jeep, immediately started going through it, and ended up taking it on this big wheeling trip where we drive 4 hours away, wheel for 5 days, and drive home camping in a different spot. And day one, I broke both rear axles and did this whole crazy adventure, drove to Nitro Gear. They had the axles there, and ended up putting them in the woods by myself, pushed everybody on, and ended up meeting up with them 2 days later in the middle of the night. And crazy epic trip, first adventure in this Jeep. And from there, I knew I loved the thing, and it was time to, you know, kind of make it my own slowly, one thing at a time. So at the time, I called it the mullet Jeep because it had the CJ nose and a YJ tub and Wagoneer 44s. So I ended up building the Wagoneer 44s and doing the thing I tell everybody not to do, and going through the axles and upgrading slowly. And we did that because they were just gonna be a dirt wheeler, meaning like trail rig, slight dirt style wheeling and adventure rig. And of course that never lasts. You always wanna go bigger and better, especially with this place. We're always trying to push the envelope. So my buddy was putting 1-tons under his before we went on a trip. And so I'm like, well, screw that. You can't have those, I gotta have them. So this is where it's at today. But there were a lot of iterations in the meantime. So it means a lot to me. I now call it Huna Matata. I love this thing, it calms me. I love wheeling it, and it's my favorite vehicle I got. So let's go over some of the details. As the Jeep sits, it is a, like I said, YJ tub, CJ nose, Chris Durham hood, no flare, aluminum body armor on the tub, stock frame rails for the most part that have been cut down to get the thing to sit really low. All flat steering geometry, custom axles, 42s. It's got a 5.3 in it. Originally I LS'd it with a 4.8. I ended up blowing up that motor, too long on the rev limiter and all the things. So it's got a 5.3 in it, the factory AX15 Dynatrac hubs in the front so we can still cruise it down this road nice. It's got the KMC beadlocks, Nitto sticky 42s, interiors, PRP race seats. It's got the fun haver steering wheel that matches our colors perfectly, and you know, rugged radios, all your shifters, all the things inside. Little Bluetooth stereo, gotta have the ARB fridge freezer, and lots of max track to keep all our storage intact and keep everything tied down, our toolkit, everything like that. We did this custom kind of half sport style cage in it, which I love. It's definitely been rolled, I don't even know how many times, definitely put through the paces, and lives to tell about it. Lots of good stories in this thing, lots of time upside down. Under the hood, it is, like I said, it's a 5.3. When we went to the bigger shocks, I started being able to jam it a little harder, so we tied in the shock towers with this fabricated cross member. PSC hydraulic reservoir for the hydraulic assist. It's got the Willwood brakes on it, plus it's got the vacuum assist, so this thing It's scary how much brakes it has. You literally have to think about being light on the brake pedal or it locks up all fours. So also makes it pretty cool to know you have all the brakes when you're rock crawling. It's got a Griffin radiator in it. The thing never gets warm. It doesn't matter what you do in the summer. You can bang it off the rev limiter all day, drive it down the highway at 80 miles an hour, climbing hills, it doesn't matter. The thing never heats up. I love that about this thing. Super reliable, not big crazy power motor. It's a stock rebuilt 5.3 and factory AX15. So works great. I love having a manual. You know, we all went down the path of building buggies and making everything easy with turbo 400s and big power and big tires and big axles and, you know, automatic. I feel it just makes things too easy and it gets a little boring, especially living so far away from the crazy rock crawling and sand hollow and the hammers and stuff. So the manual makes it fun to drive on the street and also makes it hard when you're off-road. We have tons of stories that go along with this Jeep. One that always comes to mind is I just got the axles and the suspension done on it, took it off leaf springs, did all the suspension and the axles and the brakes, and that led to all sorts of different things, body armor and all sorts of stuff. So we did this big build on it and we were pushing hard to get it done before this guys trip, and go on the guys trip, everything's working awesome, and it's late night and we're at the rocks off-roading, just me and a buddy. It's dark and we're just loving life, and I do this obstacle I do all the time. I come around it and I stop at the top and we're high-fiving and chatting and sitting there for a while, and where I think I am, pitch black, and we don't even have the lights on in the Jeep. It's pitch black and you go straight out of this obstacle. Well, we were a little bit left. We get done talking, I fire the thing up, I put in the clutch, it rolls about 1 foot and flips over forwards. And so we land upside down on the top, and we landed hard enough that I still had the steering wheel in my hands, but I broke it off the steering column, punched the dash, broke my wrist. It starts pouring down rain. We're upside down, we're fine. We try to self-recover, break the winch line, walk all the way back to camp, get his Jeep in the pouring rain, get all the way back, recover the thing. It's hydrolocked with oil, so we tow it all the way back to camp with no steering, using vice grips on the column, and finally get it all back to camp and go to bed, wake up the next morning, pull all the spark plugs, get the thing good enough that I can drive it, because we had to drive it out of the mountains about 40 miles. So ended up putting it all back together, using all my buddies, and everybody helped out and got it out of there, got a trailer and got it home. The crazy thing about that is in 4 weeks, I had 2 YouTube videos I was doing with Nitto Tire and Driving Line, and they were expecting a brand new, perfect, rebuilt Jeep. So I had basically 4 weeks to completely rebuild the thing again after I just finished it. So we had long nights on the frame rack trying to straighten the tub. It got a windshield frame, redid some of the cage. It got, I mean, the grill, the hood, the radiator, it was pretty smashed. So got it all put back together, repainted everything, got everything done like 1 day before I was supposed to leave, and took it on that trip. You can watch those episodes of Driving Line in Cle Elum, Natchez is where that was. So pretty crazy story, just the trials and tribulations it takes to be dumb like we are and beat these things up and still keep them nice. We're gonna throw it up on the hoist now, and let's go over what's underneath and what makes this thing even cooler. Underneath this thing, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. When we originally built this, like I said, it was supposed to be just a dirt wheeler. That all changed 1 year when my buddy decided that he was gonna put 1-tons in his, and can't let him be the only one on tons. So instead of dirt wheelers, we were building rock crawlers all of a sudden. So I went with trail gear, front housing, and outers. They're Super Duty fabricated outers, Spider Track's rear housing. It's all 35 spline, chromoly shafts. It's got nitro gear billet 10 inches in it. It's got an ARB in the front, a Detroit in the back. It's got 1.75" aluminum steering links. It's got trail gear / Willwood brake stuff on it. They're, you know, super lightweight stuff, similar to the Spider Track stuff. Along with that, we have all our high clearance links It's 3-linked front, but it's got our high clearance bent links. You can see, we'll show you those. That keeps it basically working like a short arm as far as clearance, but all the benefits of a long arm, which has been awesome for us. You're never hung up on a rear link or a front link, anything like that. All the mounts on this we fabricated here. They're all 1/4-inch plate, TIG welded weld washers, stuff like that, all our own geometry. It's got redhead steering box in it, PSC hydro assist. It's got some KMC 20-inch bead locks on it, 42 sticky nittos. It's their 4220, which has been awesome on this. We originally built this around 40s and then went to the 42s. That's been a total game changer. Sticky tires are cheating, it's crazy. So another thing that I always like to show, we spend a lot of time controlling all the air lines and brake lines and hydraulic hoses and stuff like that, making sure that as we're going through the build, we're taking into consideration where all those are gonna go and how they're routed. So on this, everything goes from the brake calipers, from the air locker, from the vent, and then it all runs up the upper link. Everything is clean and tidy. Anywhere where there's any heat around it, it's heat wrapped. Everything is secured with Adele clamps all the way along, so there's no issues, no heat introduction, anything like that. Makes a big difference on these builds, but it takes a lot of planning to get that all done nice and right. From there, we move up. We got Curry anti-rock sway bars front and rear. Make a big difference. I'm not a huge fan of sway bar disconnects. Personally, I like the Jeep to drive on the logging road to get to the trail the same way as it drives on the trail as far as a sway bar is concerned. I feel like if you're disconnecting the sway bar, you have a completely different vehicle. You know, the seat of the pants feels different. So I really like the anti-rock sway bar stuff. Works great, still drives great down the road. This thing does have like 11 degrees of caster with the 42s. It's awesome, 85 miles an hour down the highway. It's one hand on the wheel, I love it. But that's all built into the geometry of it, and since we fabricated the housings, we were able to add a lot of extra caster to it. Coilovers, it's got King internal bypass 2.5 coilovers on it with their finned reservoirs and adjusters. Did some custom valving in it. It's incredible, as good as any buggy I've ever built. It works really, really good. Johnson Valley whoops, it hammers through the whoops, Moab, Sand Hollow, any of that stuff, it's freaking awesome. So definitely good to spend your money on a good coilover with proper valving. You know, there's companies out there you can send stuff to. AccuTune is one that we like to use that can go over the weights of the vehicle and what kind of suspension it is and tune stuff specific for you, because most of your shocks you're gonna get off the shelf just have a universal valve in them. So big increase in ride quality and stuff like that doing that. From there, let's move to underneath. Big thing I did on this, which I love, I didn't have it originally, but I upgraded this a couple years ago, is this Hero 3-speed transfer case. Kind of hard to get, I'm not sure what's going on with them these days, but as far as the case goes, it goes directly to the AX15. And from there, I have 1-to-1 high range, I have 2-to-1 mid range, and then I have 4-to-1 low range. And that high-low, or that medium-low gears are synchroed with a center shift. So it's really fun when you're on a trail, you're at Pritchett Canyon or something, you go up an obstacle and then you got trail in between. You put it in low, you go up the obstacle, and just one click of a lever and you're in 2-to-1 from 4-to-1, so you can get down on the trail, have some fun, roll up to an obstacle, click it into low again, climb up the obstacle, boom, back into 2-to-1. So makes it quick and easy. You're not screwing with stuff. You don't have to go in and out of four-wheel drive or any of that. It's just a quick synchroed shift. It's all big gears inside of it, straight cut stuff. So guys are racing Ultra 4 in these things, and so you know the days of breaking a T-case are pretty much gone in this thing. From there, you're looking forward there, you see some of our bent links. They bend in and down. Like I said, tire clearance for the 42s, as well as, you know, everything under here you see is nice and flat at ride height. The thing sits super low. All the frame has been clearanced all over for the links and suspension geometry to go through it. But it's got a nice flat belly, everything's low, and as this arm droops out or the front arm droops out, you're not, you know, you're gonna hit up here maybe, but more or less you're gonna hit back here close to the axle. By then, where the bend is in the link is right where the tire starts to crawl that rock. So that's proven very, very effective. We put all these bends in specific places around the tire. So that's been great. Of course, it's got skid plates underneath, 1350 drive lines. And then you see the billet nitro diff in the back. Again, it's triangulated 4-link in the rear, anti-rock King 2.5s, stainless TIG welded exhaust that we did here. Pretty hard to get the exhaust out of the back of one of these things with it sitting super low and all the suspension travel, but it was done. It's just pretty elaborate to do. And frames clearance for the links over there. Again, the same brakes as the front. It's got a GenRight competition tank in it. I think it's 20 gallons, but allows us to stretch the rear back. Wheelbase on this is 99 5/8, but it still looks like a Jeep. So that was my plan, is I didn't want to comp cut the thing and make it not look like a Jeep. From there, we got the bumper on the rear. That's a swag off-road. No need to reinvent the wheel. I think they do a bitchin' rear bumper. On the side of the frame, we've redone all the body mounts with the swag off-road body mounts. The front bumper is a modified bumper that we built. On the axle from the rear, you'll notice that we got these tie-down points. Max Tie-Downs makes these. We use Max Tie-Downs for trailer and all our rigs, and that's great. You're not screwing with putting straps around axles. Put a hook in there, hook it to your trailer, makes a big difference. I definitely suggest that on any build. All right, when you come to the side here, you see the boat sides. That makes a huge difference on this. It's boat sided right underneath the door, basically meaning instead of the Jeep coming down to here, it's tapered in. You can see they take a beating anyways, but that basically gets all that out of the way instead of a rock slider that would typically be all the way out here. So once we boat sided it, that's when we had to do the body mounts, keep everything clean. We did a subframe. This is iteration number 1 of the subframe. Basically with the big T-case and the motor, everything had to be below the frame a little bit. Also to get proper suspension geometry, I wanted the vertical separation at the frame. So these hung down a little bit, so this makes more of a flat belly. I'll show you, we have a new iteration of this where everything's integrated. We'll flash to a picture of that we're doing on the CJ8. You guys have probably seen that. So as you see here, we got the new iteration of similar frame rails, same suspension geometry, everything's tied in a little easier, and one piece bolts on and off a little better. But this CJ8 we're building has the same differentials as I got in my Jeep, same bent links, all the stuff you'll notice, very similar. This is what it looks like when it's all new, before it's been beat through the hammers a bunch of times. Well guys, this is my story on Huna Matata. I hope you liked it. This Jeep means a lot to me. If you like this style of video, or you have any questions on the Jeep, anything like that, let us know. Set some comments, share it with your friends. Let us know what you want to see next. Thanks guys.